product managers, like, you need to balance your technical understanding, your technical capabilities, and your technical work with strategy, because the against in this category is like super easy to see from a mile away, which is if you're doing all the work yourself, you're doing all the development, you're doing all the research, you're doing all your own stunts, you're going to get carried away with technical stuff. You're going to get carried away with the minutia of the day.
That's I mean, look, there's no arguing against that, right?
Yeah.
That's just the obvious.
I'm in the for category. All right, take away the against category, because the against category here is you'll go chasing technical waterfalls. That's right.
Go chasing waterfalls.
TLC, technical something. I don't know what the LC stands for. Anyway, that was a joke from 1997.
Back in the days of Windows 95.
We need to check our dates. This is important because TLC Waterfalls, 1995.
Whoa.
Okay. I was off.
Back in the days of Windows 95.
Oh, man.
Well, I don't know if it actually came out in 95 now that I think about it.
So Waterfalls came out, was the album. That was a great album, too. Waterfalls came out in 1995. Oh, I didn't know they recorded that in Atlanta. That's cool. And then August 24th, Windows 95 came out.
In 1995?
I want to find out when Windows ME came out. And Windows ME was September 14th, 2000. The greatest operating system of all time. And I will die on that hill. No, that can't be true, because the greatest operating system of all time was Windows
3.11.
I was going to say Windows NT, because that thing ran in production for a bajillion years. I'm pretty sure there are still companies with Windows NT running.
It would not surprise me.
Propping up their LDAP because they're too scared to migrate
to Active Directory.
That's right. Absolutely. Oh, man. Anyway, thanks for a trip into 1995. I don't know how much of that Windows 95 memory trip is going to stay in here, but I would expect that your biggest point here that you're going to have against me is every minute you spend coding is minute that you're not hitting the market. You're not doing market research. You're not doing outreach. You're not doing marketing. You're not doing positioning, which are all super important. And I will tell you, I feel personally attacked. Sorry. I feel that one because I've often lobbied as a product manager to say, like, hey, I can do product marketing manager stuff, but we would be far more effective if you would just get a product marketing manager and then share them, just like a UX person, right? Share them across product managers, and then we'll be enhanced by this capability. So that they come in as more as like a consultant, an in-house consultant.
Yeah.
And then they can learn our products, and they can spend more time with the teams and embed with teams at certain times when like launches are close and stuff like that, because that's a special skill set.
It is, but traditionally that role has been seen as one that embeds itself in a product, right?
Yeah.
Possibly a product line, as opposed to a shared services model where you sprinkle them where needed.
Right.
So I'm trying to understand how that would work in real life, because these people really need to know the entire product back to front. They're the product marketing manager.
Yeah.
So they supplant sales, who really only manage the relationships with prospects and turn them into customers.
Right.
Anything else beyond that, they can lean on the product marketing folks.
Well, they could have, but we fired all those people because we don't know how to prove their value. Them and the Scrum Masters and the UX researchers. Yeah, we don't
need any of those.
That's right. We don't know. The finance people filled out a sheet and they couldn't figure out what cell to put them in, so they
said fire them.
That's right. They came to us at Brian Software Development Company and said, "Listen, Brian, you have to cut X dollars from the budget." We said, that's a very specific number. What does that mean? They're like,
it's the sum total of all these people's salaries.
It's these people. Yes. And I said, what is your plan, you guys, for cutting these people? And they're like, now we have the 4-point plan of startup, cash in, sell out, bro down. That's man, like what am I doing? What am I arguing for? Against? For? What am I doing here?
Going for against, weren't you?
So we talked about the time spent doing technical stuff, and then we got off track because we started talking about, like, well, if you're in a large company, they don't value any of this strategic stuff anyway that helps your teams with the marketing people. They keep cutting these strategic resources because they don't know how to monetize it anyway. So is it really a bad? Like, yeah, no, it's a
bad thing. In larger companies, though, they have a clear demarcation, so you probably aren't going to get to play with technical stuff anyway. If you're in product management, you do product management-y stuff, and we have a whole set of technical teams over here.
Yeah.
So that idea of getting hands-on and trying things, I don't know if it exists in these big, large companies where you have these departments that take care of various different things.
So, I'm not giving a great pushback in the 4 category here, because my pushback basically is like, well, everyone's bad at strategy anyway. So if I'm going to flip on the audience here and take the 4, take the 4 side and say, like, no, you should build stuff.
Yeah.
You should build stuff in product or whatever. I mean, like other people in the business, right, too. You should build stuff because then it lets you understand that something that seems simple, now because you've got 30 tables you have to consider when you're adding this new thing, suddenly you have to consider the rest of your architecture, and now it's not so simple. Oh, it's super easy. We'll just add a new table. Well, that's great. Now you're going to add a new table, but now you've got to write a database migration script. And that's a huge pain that you didn't have to deal with if you had no active users, but you can't have downtime. So when you build something for yourself, you get credibility. And I say it's credibility with the development teams. What I really mean is you get empathy to understand technical debt, scalability, architectural decisions, how all that factors into when's it going to be done? That question, when am I going to have it done? You'll now be as enraged with that question as I get enraged with that question, because now you understand how the sausage is made.
Yeah. And I think that the other side of it is you actually do build credibility with your development teams if you can understand that and have those kinds of discussions, as opposed to, like you said, when's it going to be done, or why can't we do this? Surely it's easy. It's just adding one table.
And the more you build yourself, the more it helps you be aware of current industry trends and stuff like that. Typically what you would go to a CTO to bounce your ideas off of, and the CTO would be very invested in, like, here are the current trends, here's what people are saying about this, here's what people are saying about that. So just a quick sync with your technical person, because they are up on all the technology. You know what I mean? The technology is emerging and the stuff that you use. You know what I mean? Like when I use background removal for our thumbnails, for example, they just put out in July. It's October now. In July was the latest update to the background removal tool that I use. I haven't updated to that yet. So I don't know what's in that library yet. Right. That kind of stuff is like you don't know what's out there. Quick check in with your technical people on a regular basis. Like, how many product managers have some sort of sync where they check in with their technical folks to say, like, hey, let's have a review of all the libraries that we're using, of all the third-party apps or whatever that we're using, of what they've done and what we can take advantage of. I've never been in a company.
Happen. I've never seen that.
Just a review board. Just a review board of, like, this is all the stuff that we're taking advantage of that we use in our software on a regular basis. You're in charge of these 3 libraries, this other person in charge of these 3 libraries, and we'll just have a review board. Here's the version we're on. Here's the latest version. What are the features in the middle? Let's all just have lunch catered in, take the morning, go over everything. And
if you're a non-technical product owner, right, so I can imagine some of the audiences go, well, that's all techie talk, guys. I'm not technical, right? I just leave all that to all these smart people over there. Okay, but look, you don't have to get down to even like very detailed level. It helps you to understand, like you said, technology trends, what's hot, what's not. So what are some of the new things that we're working on? Right. If you understand that, you could have a conversation, or if it comes up with your prospects or customers, we're not using that deprecated third-party tool anymore, right? That speaks volumes as opposed to just looking at the ceiling because you have no idea.
Right. Well, also, like, you have a strategy. You have a plan. So, like, the solopreneur here is doing it all themselves.
Sure.
So I hope if you're solo, like, there's a takeaway here about, like, setting time boundaries. But I feel the people that are not doing stuff solo, that are just randomly walking into this podcast, this is something you could do as a product manager. It's within your capability to ask your technical leadership, hey, can we set up some kind of review where we just, like, look through the libraries? And at first they're going to grumble because nobody wants to go pull all the requirements for your app and then look through every single documentation. First of all, you should be scraping that stuff and just, like, putting it into a report.
Yeah.
You got married to the library, so don't tell me you don't want to know anything about them. Like,
you're stuck with it.
Yeah, you're stuck with them.
Yeah.
I'm not getting involved in it. That's what I'm saying. I'm not getting involved. But
that really is a way to go, right? But I suspect if you did that as a build-it-yourself person, you would spend a lot of hours working.
Maybe I could also see, like, libraries don't change that often. So you could put, like, a reminder on your calendar once a month to look through the requirements.txt and just see what the latest are. Or develop a script that grabs the requirements.txt and gets the latest version. Because if you use 20 dependencies and only one of them in the last month has updated their your job is super easy. You booked a whole hour to go read and investigate, and then you only have to investigate one repo to see what they changed. Minor bug fixes. Okay, done. You just save yourself an hour. But you're staying on top of it. And what I just outlined puts you ahead of 99% of professional...
Easily.
Yeah.
So when you turn to your developers to have that convo, earlier I mentioned prospects and customers, but even internally, right? They are more likely to entertain your question because they know you understand. Right? At least you're talking, again, you're not talking about deep technical stuff, but how to use libraries and all of these things, right? How to include them, things like that. You're just simply saying, do we use, for example, XYZ, right? We do. Okay. I see they're coming out with a new version. What's the impact on us? I mean, just having those conversations.